Hey everyone, welcome back to the Errant Venture. I'm Steve,
I'm Adam.
and we are just still so happy to be back. It's our second episode since being back from a long retrofit, and we are just continuing on this journey and very excited to take all of you guys with us. So, I was thinking some stuff during the week, and I really, it's all the content, it's all the stuff, and the big rumors going around out there, and all the here too about Obi-Wan season two. And is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And what it kind of made me think of is, there's a lot of untold stories that came out of season one, but mainly Riva, better known as the third sister.
The third sister.
So as I was thinking about Obi-Wan season two, this plot hole, and it got me thinking, what would be a great topic to talk about? The Inquisitors. There's
Hmm.
just so much. There's so much there. There's some in canon. There's some in legends, mostly in canon now.
Yeah.
A lot more in canon than there used to be. And there's just so much more that they can dive into because there's so many of them. And
Yeah.
I thought
Well,
I thought this would be a fun one to talk about.
I tell you, as I was looking things up, uh, what I did not know was that the Inquisitors actually started during the Clone Wars. So what happened was that Palpatine put spies within the Jedi Order, and their job was to look for candidates for the Inquisitor program, or the Inquisitors, as it was called. And that was their whole job, was to just kind of put feelers out there and see who would be a good candidate to join the Inquisitors. And we really don't know how many there are. Um, they're saying it could be as many as 16 Inquisitors.
Now, that is interesting to think because also, we know that during the Clone Wars, the Grand Inquisitor, was a temple guard who
Mm-hmm.
turned. I think they say that he took out a bunch of his fellow guards, and that's what allowed the Anakin to storm the temple so easily and so without the defense of the temple guards, who are among the most powerful fighters that the Jedi have. And so here's a question for you. So,
Yeah.
we watched Clone Wars. Do you think Barriss Ophi is an Inquisitor? Do you think she? It's the big question. Is she the? I have to scroll down and see. There's so many of them. I never know who's who. Um, do you think she's the seventh sister,
Um,
killed by Maul and
you
Rebels?
know,
The one with the little droids that fly around with her. Like they're definitely the same species of, or type of alien. But that was the thing. Like she gets carried away. She gets taken.
oh, that was okay. Yeah, yeah. Barriss Ophi.
She,
She
she was
was
the one who betrayed
she was
Ahsoka.
the Padawan who set the bomb off in the Jedi Temple, right?
Yes, yes,
And then framed Ahsoka.
yeah, and framed Ahsoka, and no, essentially was the reason why Ahsoka left the Jedi Order in the first place. And
Yeah.
but we know she goes to jail. We know she wasn't killed by the Jedi, but we don't know anything about her fate. Could she be the seventh sister, especially considering the Inquisitors are made up of mostly fallen Jedi?
Um. So there's actually a couple of different. I know there's a couple of different rumors about her.
All right.
One of which, both of them, well, not both, but from all the ones that I was looking, um, they all pretty much end the same way: is that she died during Order 66.
Okay.
Um, there was one where she was actually killed in prison, possibly by Anakin, as revenge for framing Ahsoka.
Was that
Which
was that before he turned into Vader? Or was that during Order 66? Did he like
that was during Order 66.
okay.
So he's already Vader, well, in name. Um, yeah, and he's going on his killing spree, killing children. Uh, and yeah, he goes to the prison at some point and kills her. So I don't think that she is one of the Inquisitors.
Okay.
I actually like that particular um,
Theory.
rumor.
Eh,
Yeah,
eh,
because it kind of fits. I mean, at that point, I kind of feel like you know properly, Anakin has just like he's given up all you know who cares, and he's just letting go. He's letting go of his anger, just letting it out there, letting it take over. So yeah, I can really see him going to the prison, finding her and killing her.
well, we know that during the siege of the Jedi Temple, when they're going in there and Order 66 and Vader, he's not in the suit yet. That's probably peak Vader if you think about it, because once he gets in the suit, now the suit amplifies a lot of his strengths, but it's also artificial. It's not him. It's a suit. It's a lot of robotics. It's all of that. But
I kind of feel it diminishes his power, if anything.
this, oh, the suit, absolutely, and
Yeah, and
and
I think that was by design,
yeah,
to be
because
honest.
well, you got to think you have Palpatine. Palpatine followed suit in a long list of the Rule of Two, which eventually the Padawan kills their master and takes over.
Yeah,
And
but did he?
did Palpatine kill his master?
Well, no, he did kill his master, but after that, did he really follow the rule of two?
Well, that
Because we're talking about the Inquisitors, and the big question is, did they break the rule of two with the Inquisitors?
so I don't think so, and my evidence for that is Asajj Ventress. No, fallen Jedi Padawan, working with Dooku, being trained by Dooku, and Palpatine knew about it. She was his assassin, but the second she started getting too powerful for herself, he told Dooku to eliminate her. And so I think pretty much um, all of the Inquisitors, they're force users. They might be strong with the lightsaber. They have different strengths about them, but I don't think they add up anywhere near what you think of when you think of a Sith. You really, if you think
Which,
about a lot of the things we see them do, not many of them
mhm.
are really using the Force that much. A lot of it is really just lightsaber work.
Well, let me read you a little something from Wikipedia, which kind of backs up what you're saying. So what they're saying is that the Inquisitorius, also known as the Inquisitorius Program, the Order of the Inquisitors, the Inquisitor Corps, and the Imperial Inquisition, was an organization of force sensitive operatives. And I think that's the key word right there, force sensitive.
Well, and even
And
that's
that's actually, I mean, really, it's a broad term because we're saying force sensitive. Well, force sensitive can mean anyone from,
well,
like Han
nowadays,
Solo with a
nowadays, yeah.
hunch
Nowadays, ever since they changed it
to,
where everyone's got midi-chlorians and anyone can learn to use the Force and anyone can be a
yeah.
Jedi,
Well,
it really takes away a lot of it. But like
yeah,
when
hi,
you
that's all canon now, though.
exactly, but
That's all canon.
like but when you
So,
when you but when you read down this list, like the Grand Inquisitor was a fully trained Jedi. He was Temple Guard,
Yeah.
so he was. You know that
And we know the third sister was a Jedi Padawan.
a lot of these were the second
Yeah,
sister
a lot of them were.
second sister was a Padawan. I believe the third sister Riva was at least a youngling. We know that I think the 10th brother was also a Jedi at some point. So a lot of these people did make it. We don't know anything about from Ahsoka with the Ahsoka episode of Jedi of Stories of the Jedi. We don't know anything about him, but with the weird mask and stuff. But he looked pretty
Mm.
badass. There's a lot that we just don't know about. But some of these were full fledged Jedi that just fell.
Which, right. And to me, that right there kind of does. I say yes, they did break the rule. Um, you could say, an argument could be made that they kind of stretched it, by saying, well, these aren't really Sith; they're just dark Jedi. Um, but it's just one of the key factors in being a Sith is your ambition. And the stronger you are in the Force, the greater the ambition. And in my opinion, the greater the threat. So I kind of do feel, in a way, yeah, they did break that rule.
So
They did break that rule.
so
Um,
it's definitely
I would have liked, I would have preferred, we probably talked about this before, but I would have preferred if the Inquisitors weren't fallen Jedi, but um, just people who were skilled and trained to use the lightsabers as best they can without the Force. Kind of like, Mandalorian bounty hunters, you know, trained to use the lightsaber.
and like I said, we really don't see a lot of these people using the Force that much, if any. Like off the top of my head, I'm really. I know there's a few of them. There's a few, mostly I think in Rebels, but
Mm.
outside of that, I really don't recall seeing that much Force usage by this. Now, I know they had a very steep training. Um, Essentially, Anakin or Vader had to train them all. Most of them were apparently maimed and are missing body parts, which would only weaken them. That could be seen as, hey, backlash of the training process, or it could be seen as every time you lose a body part, maybe you lose some of your midi chlorians. That's one of the
Mm.
reasons why Palpatine was so upset when Anakin lost his hand, because it meant he lost some of his midi chlorians and he wasn't as strong because he wasn't whole anymore. And even more so once he got put into the suit, that there was just less Anakin, more robot or droid. So there's a lot to take in here. Now, I
Yeah.
uh, I do think that there. I do think this is a stretch in order to say that it's kind of that these are arguing the rule of two, because there are so many bad people out there. But even if you take in the rule of two, and what about all of Star Wars? Like, we just learned in the Ahsoka series with Balin's out there with his apprentice.
Yep.
They're not technically Sith, but if they're not Sith and they're not Inquisitors, then what are they? They have their
I
arm.
still want to find that out.
It's a great question, and
I really think that if they do a season 2 of Ahsoka, I think that needs to be in it.
I believe
We need to find out exactly what they are.
I believe they've
I mean,
announced it, like the season two.
yeah,
It's just going to take a while.
yeah. Um, I think, I mean, if you really want to connect it to the sequel trilogy, they could be part of the Knights of Ren.
Hmm. I feel like that's a big stretch because weren't the Knights of Ren essentially the students of Luke Skywalker? At least in the in canon now.
Um, I the Knights of Ren. Um, I think some of the ones like that were in the sequel trilogy were former students of Luke, but I think the organization of the Knights of Ren predates
Look,
predates Kylo Ren.
well, as we're learning today, Wikipedia is just a fantastic encyclopedia of Star Wars knowledge. And according to this, band of marauders from unknown regions roam the galaxy, causing destruction, imbued with the power of the Force, dark side stuff. They were active during the Galactic Civil War between the Alliance to restore the Republic. So they were around before then and remain active. So it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible, but that's the one issue with Star Wars. They keep creating Force users, whether it's on either side, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes away from a lot of the you know a lot of the story that we learned in the original trilogy. Once again, everything that makes Luke special is gone, other than the fact that he's Vader's kid.
Yeah. That's long gone.
And so that's just a lot of the it's just getting more and more watered down as they keep
Mm-hmm.
bringing out more and more. Now, I do think the Inquisitorious, like it had to happen. Vader can't be everywhere. The Emperor can't be everywhere. There has to be some, you know, minions running around, and I think they're a good idea. Uh, I don't necessarily dig, their digs. I feel like they could have made this look a lot better. Like if you actually look up like a picture of the 10th brother, like he looks like freaking samurai. Like he looks badass. And
Yeah.
the rest of these people just they kind of look doofy. And I guess as Star Wars has gone, very kid-ish, maybe that's why. But no, I just feel they could have done a better job creating these, provided more information about their backstory, because anything that really is out there to learn about uh, the Inquisitory is pretty much stuff you have to read.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where like a Riva storyline would be great. Like, you learn that she was you learn she was a youngling. You learn that contrary to what they would make you think in Phantom of the Menace, a lightsaber stab through the chest does not kill you. Um, Poor Qui Gon. Um, but uh, but maybe a more of a story of what happened, like what happened after she left the temple when when all that took place. How did she
Yeah.
survive? Going on, but there's so much we learn about how Grogu escaped Order 66, but how did Riva escape it? How was she then found again by Vader?
Right.
How is she trained? There's so much to go on in
They make references in Obi-Wan where they're like, "Oh, well, you're gutter trash. You're gutter trash."
yeah.
We picked you up when we found you. You were living in the gutter, type of thing. But they don't give a complete story. There was more to be learned, um, and it might have made her a little more likable character, to be honest.
In all, in my opinion, I think her story is better than Andor's.
Oh yeah.
Like I can't believe that they wanted to make an Andor series for 5 seasons. Not saying it's terrible, it's not great. I'm looking forward to the next season just because I enjoy Star Wars. But I think they could have done a lot more with Riva if they continue her storyline, whether it's before, so going backwards or
Mhm.
going forwards. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of story. What happens next with her? Now you have this, I'm assuming, skilled, dark force user who's seeing the light. Is she gonna find a way to help the rebellion? Is she going to,
Yeah.
what is her future? She can't just be running around doing nothing. And especially if she was not the one that ended up turning into Marok.
Right.
So I think there's a lot
I
there.
mean, and it's just, I keep going back to, there's too much.
Yeah. Like,
There's too much out there. They make everything canon. Now we have like all of these Jedi running around.
absolutely.
Now,
Well, think of it
how
this
is
way.
all of our hopes pinned on Luke now? Like,
Yeah. Well, think of it this way. So I have this list right here of a bunch of the Inquisitor. And as we go through this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of like the multiple of the many that are on this list that were actually in some sort of video or televised content. Some of the rest of them were just in video games, comic books, or just mentioned that they exist in like an encyclopedia of some sort.
yeah,
Eh,
I'm gonna die on this hill. I'm telling you, I'm dying on this hill. The Inquisitors would have worked out a lot better if they were more of an elite stormtrooper unit.
You don't think they
You
had that
know,
already though? Like they had like
they had the dark troopers, but I would say these go further than that with the lightsaber training. And a lot of the skills that the Jedi had, where you don't need the Force. I just think that it would have made a lot more sense. It would have worked out a lot better, and we would not have this whole question of, did they break the rule of three? Well, now we have all of these force sensitive people out there, with lightsabers who were trained. And I'm sorry, once you train these force sensitive people, guess what? They're not just force sensitive. They're now like, they're Sith. They were trained as Sith.
so
Period.
so have you watched The Bad Batch yet?
Oh, I have not. It's
Uh
on my list to watch. I have a little list I need to watch.
so I'll leave that one off. I don't want to ruin that for you. So there actually were, and I believe this might be considered canon. It's hard to know anymore. The Koyas clones were six, and this is once again from our favorite Star Wars encyclopedia.
Mm,
The Koyas clones were six prototype clone stormtroopers bred from the genome of Sa Koyas, a dark Jedi who served as one of the Emperor Palpatine's personal assassins. So they actually were force sensitive clones that became stormtroopers, had lightsabers, and were pretty much turned into pretty much what you're asking for. Of course, you wouldn't know this only watching TV or movies.
right.
This is stuff that you would have to read about, and that's my biggest issue. And we've talked about this so much. How much is too much? And
Yeah.
like there this is the type of stuff this would be something that would be a great story arc. This would be something that would be great to talk about, great to watch, and these are the things that we need to know about that
Mm-hmm.
deserve a story. And it doesn't have to be like a whole season. Like I'm loving like the Tales of the Jedi and stuff like where it's just 1 or 2 episodes of something having to do with something.
Right.
That's all it has to be. Come up with a show that's just 1 or 2 episode arcs, and just
Yeah.
to show some of this content that is typically otherwise only found in reading.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much
I
more out there.
there just needs to be. Yeah. It's just the Inquisitors are a good idea executed poorly.
And part of me honestly thinks that's the point. I
That they
think
did it on purpose.
yeah,
They executed it poorly on purpose.
I think they were made to be able to do a task and be easily disposable. That's why none of them.
Well, that's why you would use. That's why you would use. You know, uh, elite stormtroopers.
But having that force
You don't.
ability,
You don't. You know.
would allow them to get more information. Like if they're interrogating someone, if they're trying to find out more information, like there are traits that the force does amplify that makes them a little bit better than training a stormtrooper to do it. But I think the whole
I
reason
have yet to see. I have yet to see a force user get any useful information out of a strong-willed person who just is refusing to give up anything.
there is an episode of the Clone Wars where I believe they got information out of Cad Bane.
One.
Hey, you said you've yet to
One.
see anything. It doesn't matter.
One.
It doesn't matter. I got it. It whether it's one
But
or
is he that? But is he that strong-willed though?
I would believe so because if he wasn't that strong-willed, I don't think he would have been such a threat.
Hmm. Okay.
Because otherwise, oh, we can end this early. Use the force on him, woo, and Jedi voodoo, and all of a sudden, he's doing whatever they want with the mind tricks. But they couldn't do that. And in fact, it took for him to be in an interrogation room with a very angry Anakin in order to get him to crack. So, and I do want to have a conversation, or at least to come back to this conversation after you've started watching the Bad Batch, though.
Bad Batch.
I I do think that you'll enjoy that.
Okay.
But
Well, I don't doubt it because I've enjoyed the Bad Batch.
oh well, I mean, in regards to this
So
conversation,
okay, okay,
but
that's what you're saying.
no, Bad Batch has been great. Like in all honesty, anything that they do in that Clone War style, like, that's my favorite period. I love or hate the movies, the prequels. That's still my favorite era of just Star Wars action. I love the clones. I love the clone troopers. I love the starships. All of that. For me, it's just a very special time. And when it gets into the Empire, I feel like it loses a lot of its uniqueness because the vehicles that they had just look so much cooler than the vehicles that it evolved into. And maybe it's also because the World War II fan inside of me, because just so many more of the Clone Wars era vehicles are based on real planes and real
Hmm.
real you know things that existed, where you can't really base the TIE fighter on really anything except in my mind like a s'more.
Yeah,
So
I just like how the you know pre-Empire era ships are just, and I agree, they're so much nicer. And you get into the Empire, and it's like overnight they go from nice ships to crappy clunkers.
Yeah, well,
It's like, what happened?
well, no, they're built for two different reasons, but you can even see it in in the Bad Batch, even in the stuff that you've seen in like season two. Now the Venators lost their red.
Uh-huh.
They're all gray. But during the Clone Wars and versus
Well, that
during
was more of a military, because
yeah,
that's more of, we're changing the military colors type of thing.
but also the type of ships and stuff that was needed during the Clone Wars was to fight an intergalactic war against
Mm-hmm.
a much bigger military force, bigger not better, but whereas during the Galactic Civil War, it's I'm sorry, during the Rebellion, it's your at that time they were really just policing the galaxy, and then there
Mm.
just happened to be these farmers who were just taking up X-wings at them. All right, so I know you've said it a couple times. I just want to get final thoughts on. So, do you think the Inquisitorius are? It's going to be a two-part question. Do you think
Okay.
one, the Inquisitorius are needed, and two, do you think they break the rule of two?
I think that the Inquisitorius, as they are now, are not needed. I think they're superfluous, and I
You're
do
gonna
think they
have
break
to
the rule of.
you're gonna have to tell me what that word means.
Um, it's kind of not needed. They're like,
You had to use a Scrabble word to say they're not needed.
listen, I want it to be all fancy,
Yeah,
but yeah,
you-
they're just, yeah, I don't know. They're just kind of redundant. It's just like, eh.
all right. And part two.
And yeah, I think they do break the rule of three. Um, you think about it, they are force sensitive people, or beings who are trained in the ways of the Sith to a point. They didn't get full training, but they got like the Luke Skywalker crash course of Sith training. So yeah, I think they do break the rule of three, or rule of two. Excuse me.
So, for me, answering the same questions, I do think that whether it's them or, as you said earlier, Vader needs an army, and in the comic book, he needs minions. He needs
Are
minions.
we talking about like just like, because I was saying as they are now, with like the force sensitive
Well, yeah.
fallen Jedi.
Well, I'm getting there.
Okay, okay, okay.
I
Sorry,
think
sorry, sorry.
Vader needs minions. He needs people to do his biddings. Like Vader isn't going on the easy missions; he's going on the hard missions. But there's still going to be something that's in between the hard and the easy ones. So the medium missions, and that's where you need to have people who are trained in a certain way, and that's where the Inquisitorius comes in. They can do his bidding and help him, especially when it comes to identifying the Jedi, especially if they're weaker Jedi, be able to take them out. At the very
Hmm.
minimum, they can at least identify, oh, there's a strong Jedi over here, and bring in the big guy, and he'll come out there and do his thing. So I do think they serve a purpose. Do I think they break the rule of two? Like, once again, I don't know how much Sith training they got. Obviously they have to have some because they bled their crystals, but at the same time, I'm not even sure at this point, like, if that's even the process anymore of bleeding their crystals, because now all of a sudden each one has two crystals. So they might not have all had two lightsabers beforehand, but I'm not sure how much Sith training they have had versus just how much uh, being pissed off, learning how to fight, and
Yeah.
what little bit of force ability taught, just enough to make them dangerous, but not enough to ever pose any type of threat to
Okay.
Anakin or Vader and Palpatine. And once again, taken from Asajj, essentially once she started getting to that level, they tried to take her out. So I don't.
Yep.
So I don't think Palpatine would have ever allowed any of them to get to that level. And that being said, I have really no clue how far away the Grand Inquisitor was from a Vader level, considering he was a full-fledged Temple Guard.
Yeah.
But if he'd probably be the only one in my mind that would be close enough to be considered anything close to a Sith. And
Yep.
they made him seem, as at least in the Ahsoka series, very disposable.
Yeah.
I just think the actor should have watched Rebels before being in that show.
That should have been required.
Yeah,
Should have been required.
character
Should have been required.
research, man. Learn
Yeah.
what you're supposed to do.
I do agree that I think the idea of the Inquisitors was needed. But like I said, as they are in canon, no.
I'll agree with that.
But the idea of what and what they should have been, yes.
I would have liked if they debuted in something outside of Rebels. Like I know they've been around in other content and so on beforehand, but to be there for the in canon debut, they already started off as very cartoony. That by the
Mm-hmm.
time you saw them, especially when some of them are the same from Rebels and looked very weird compared to how they looked in Rebels, which is saying something considering the artwork,
Mm.
that it was hard to take them seriously. It's like if all of a sudden SpongeBob was real. You can't take it seriously.
Right.
So, all right. Well,
Totally agree.
I think this has been a great conversation about the Inquisitors. This is another one of those ones that we can talk on and on and on about. And
Oh yeah.
at the end of the day, we're not done with it. Know that there's going to be more stuff coming out with it. There's too many open ends. Too many of them are still alive in
God, we
various
hope
places.
so.
Well, at least they haven't killed off all of them yet. There's still a few more. So
Yep.
we know they are going to come back and have a presence somewhere. Just which show is it going to be? Part of me thinks we might learn a little bit more about the rule of two once Acolyte comes out later this year. Really excited
Yeah.
about that. But in the meantime, uh, great topic. Can't wait for the next
Definitely.
episode. So don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on YouTube, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts. So come on by, give us a listen, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. We're on Facebook. So once again, I'm Steve,
I'm Adam.
and you can let us go
May the force be with you.
always.